7:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started and be conscious of everyone's time. Welcome to the third installment of our summer series for financial literacy. Our topic today is going to be budgeting. We have two of the best financial literacy gurus that our bank has to offer that's going to provide you with some awesome information today. A few housekeeping instructions first. You can feel free to stay on camera if you would like, but please have your microphone muted for the duration of the session. If you have any questions, you can pop them into the chat, and we are going to have a question and answer at the end, so you can get all of your questions answered. This session is also being recorded, and we're going to put it on our website in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to introduce our speakers to you. First, we have Tammy Lee St. Clair. Tammy is the executive assistant at Ridgeview Bank. She has a passion for personal budgeting and financial education. She spent the last 12 years in the public sector where she has developed curriculum and taught economic stability in financial literacy classes. Tammy is also a graduate of the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. And then we have Carrie Wood. Carrie serves as the bank's vice president of employee experiences and financial literacy. She holds a dual degree in Spanish and business administration from Juniata College. She has an MBA from Penn State, and she's currently pursuing her doctorate in business and organizational leadership at Liberty University. She has been in the financial services industry for almost 25 years, and she has served the bank in various capacities. Although if you'll ask Carrie, she's going to tell you that financial literacy education is her passion, and I can definitely attest to that. She's got a great passion for it. Both of these ladies are super knowledgeable, and I can't wait to hear what they have to tell you. So take it away, Carrie.
Thanks, Jill. She makes us sound absolutely amazing. So
you are.
Hopefully we can deliver that today. So really excited to be here to talk about budgeting. One of the really basic things about financial education and foundational things about financial education is creating a budget. So we want to give you a little bit of the nuts and bolts here today. I'm going to talk through some of the more technical aspects of building a budget. And then Tammy Lee, she is an absolute guru in budgeting, and she is super disciplined. She does her budget every week, and she is a model example of how you should do this. So she is going to walk you through some of the tools that we have to offer and how to set up your budget. Or if you are already a super educated on how to do a budget, kind of maybe give you a fresh view on that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We put together a couple PowerPoints for you. So you should be able to see that at this point. So let's get rolling. First, let's talk about the definition of a budget. So as you can see here, expenses, saving, debt repayment. And I won't read these slides to you, but I do want to underscore this is not hard, but it is difficult. So let me explain that. The task of budgeting is not hard to do. You've probably heard a lot of the pieces to that, but we're going to teach you a lot of tips and tricks today and provide you with some tools to do a budget. But the difficult part is the actual discipline of doing the budget and sticking to it. Forcing yourself to get in the habit of planning is hard, and tracking it can be frustrating and challenging. But we hope that what we've delivered today can give you the tools that you need to get over that hump. And again, if you're already doing some of this, maybe it'll give you a fresh outlook on how to be even more successful in what you're already doing. I think it's as important to talk about what a budget is not. A budget is not the amount in your checking, an idea in your head, simply tracking what you spend, or set permanently in stone. I think all four of these concepts are really important. Your budget is going to be your guide, and your past spending is going to give you an indication of the changes that you need to make going forward. So go into this with an open mind and making sure that you're including all your expenses and all your income. So I always like to begin as well with the why. Why is this important for you? Fundamentally, budgeting puts you in the driver's seat with a clear focus looking forward. Whatever you have done in the past, that is in the past. And you may need to make some changes to move forward in a stable way. So focus and awareness are the two key takeaways for today. I just had a conversation with my son about this over the past couple weeks. He has a checking account. He's a teenager, has a checking account with us, really doesn't have a budget. And when I was creeping on our joint account recently, I was asking him some questions, and then I had to enlighten him about how much he was spending. And there was a little bit of shock, a little bit of awe, maybe a little bit of sadness. And then he was a little embarrassed about how much he had sped through in his checking account on things that he didn't even realize that he was spending that much money. So the goal of budgeting is to take away some of that stress and anxiety that my son felt for those money matters for all of us. Just a few facts, because I love research and facts, but 90% of Americans do stress over money, and 52% of adults say they experience some kind of mental health negative impact because of money matters. So today we really want to take some of that stress away for you and get you a plan to move forward. So some key budgeting points you can see here. Again, it's a guide for you. Throughout the year, you can consult your budget, hopefully on a monthly basis at least. And does your actual budget match with what you planned? And if not, how can you correct that situation? And like I said earlier, writing these things down is going to be so important for you, because, you can say, oh yeah, I know what I spent at the convenience store. I know what I was spending on groceries this week. But when you look at that holistically, how are you doing? Where is all your money going? And this will also help make choices going forward. If it doesn't 100% necessary in your life and it doesn't fit your budget, it's a lot easier to say no, and no, that's not something that I'm going to do today. And maybe you can do it next week, maybe you can save for it, or maybe you just have to eliminate that potential expense. And Tammy Lee has a great example when she starts going through these materials of how that looks. So there are three main components to a budget: income, expense, and savings. Budgets are made up of these three components, and here are the little definitions for you. Income, everything that you're bringing in. Expenses, everything that you have going out. And we break up savings, even though we like to look at it as a pay yourself first concept, where, that is an expense to yourself that you're going to take off the top, when you have your income come in. It is also a separate, we want to look at that as a separate entity as well for emergencies, retirements, and rainy day. What does that fund do for you, and how can you dip into that and have that money set aside when you need it? So where do you start? I've seen it happen so many times. You started your budget, you get frustrated and never actually implement it or stick to it. So this is about those tough decisions that you have to make about your priorities. Tammy Lee and I cannot tell you what those priorities are because they're personal to you, but building a budget allows you to prioritize what is important to you, and looking at your financial situation holistically. You have your expenses that you must pay, so your mortgage, your car payment, those kind of things. They're the expenses that are going to fluctuate for you, like your electric bill, how much money you put in your gas tank. And then there are things that are optional, like your morning coffee at Starbucks and that pair of shoes that you just have to have at the store. So remember, budgeting is about you, and it's about your prioritization and planning for your hard-earned money. So a great place to start, where I started this slide, is figuring out where you are currently spending all your money. Now that includes everything that's coming out of your checking account. It includes what you're spending in cash, and where do you want every dollar to go. I would be remiss if I did not show you this awesome little tool that we have. It is a free tool in your Erie Bank checking account. It's called eGoals. You can find it under budgeting tool in the hamburger menu. That's those three little lines, and it just is called a budgeting tool. And we'll give you some specific strategies shortly about these, but this can help you determine where you're spending your money. On the left-hand side over here, it categorizes your spending automatically for you. Now, these categories, if they come in incorrectly, because sometimes the system doesn't know how to categorize your spending at the dollar store, for example. So in this example, I've categorized that as personal, but there's a lot of options that you can change these. And then it gives you this handy dandy graph on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, 3 months, 6 months, however you choose there, to say, all right, on travel, how much have I spent? On personal, on groceries, on transportation, how much have I spent out of my budget, basically. But that can help you figure out where you are now. Now, again, the shortcoming is if you took cash and you dropped $20 at Walmart, it's not going to tell you that, but you can help fill that in with this as a starting point. So the second piece then is, where do you want your money to go? Don't get stuck on, or frustrated where you're currently spending. Small changes can make a big difference. So we wanted to give you this slide here, the 50-30-20 budget rule. It's a well accepted budgeting rule out there. And what it looks like is 50% it helps you categorize for future spending, 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and 20% for savings and paying off debt. Again, this is just a guide. This may not be the perfect wheel for you, but it's a starting point for you to think, all right, where do I need to be spending my money and how am I spending my money? So again, you may, your fixed expenses may be 60%, or they may only be 40%, but you can look for opportunities comparing it against this guide. So to recap, this technical portion, budgeting is really about ensuring that you have a purpose for every dollar that you have. Bad things happen when you don't budget. You can overspend, you can fall into debt, it limits your spending power on other things. Gives you that anxiety, stress, worry when, you don't know exactly how much is in your checking account and where all your dollars are going. But I want to underscore this. Make sure that you're realistic when you're doing these exercises and setting these things up. Make sure you're realistic about your priorities. If you're not willing to give up your cup of Starbucks every day and you say, I don't want to put that in my budget, but you're going to spend it, that's not a realistic view of where you are or your priorities. Budgeting takes time, patience, effort. And if you don't get it right the first time, it's okay. Lots of people have backpedal and they have revisions and things that they need to do with their budget. So look for ways to be able to do this easier for yourself, like mobile apps. And I'll underscore again, make sure that you write it down and that it's not just an idea in your head. So with that, to help you with this piece, I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Lee. And she's going to go through the hands-on budgeting exercise.
Thank you, Carrie. That was great. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to go over a few tools that will assist you in your guide to budgeting. And I get my screen to work. There we go. So 3 key tools that we use, and I can tell you these are tried and true. I'm not going to teach you or tell you anything that I haven't experienced or gone through in my own family. First, we'll go over the money journal, and then the budget worksheet, and then a grocery checklist. The first is your money journal. And this money journal is a guide for you to log your money that you're spending every month. And as you can see on this, it only goes to day 8, but I assure you the whole money journal is a 31-day journal. So what I would suggest to you is to print this journal off. My husband kept it in his truck. I kept one on the nightstand. And what we did was we logged in our expenses daily. And it didn't matter if we had a stick of gum or we filled up the gas tank. It was logged in this journal. About day 15, you're going to start to see your own spending pattern. So here you can see a simple example, but it's so tried and true. My husband was spending $2.83 every day for his honey bun and coffee at the local convenience store. Every single day. So if we do a little bit of math on that, and we have some numbers. So $2.83 times 5 days a week was $14.15 a week. For a month, he was spending $56.60 And for the year, $679.20 on honey buns and coffee. So how are we going to fix this problem? We see it's something in our budget that we could fix. So we went into the closet and we got the coffee pot out that we never used at home. We took it to his office and we set up a coffee station using the larger containers of coffee from Sam's, and that was able to take care of his coffee addiction. The honey buns, he just decided, you know what, I'm going to cut those out, which was a great help because it made his waistline smaller and our bank account bigger. So we took care of that $2.82 that he was, or 83 cents that he was spending every day. But we wouldn't have known about that unless we started to really log, and as Carrie said, write it down. We think we know what these expenses are. It's just a dollar here, a dollar there. But when we saw it on paper and consistently saw the patterns, we were able to see where our money was going. And that just leads me into one of my favorite phrases. It's telling your money where to go rather than wondering where it went. And I think if you keep that in mind, it's going to open your eyes to a new outlook on budgeting. So I suggest that you print off the money journal, and then these 3 tools will be available to you. And start doing this for 30 days. And that will lead us into our second tool. And that is the budget worksheet. Now, there's a different webinar that Carrie can put a link out that we've done before that goes line by line and describes very interactively numbers that we put into this budget. Today, we don't have the time for that, so we're just going to give a short overview. 3 components of a budget, as Carrie said, are the income, the expenses, and the savings, and you'll see all 3 of them here on the sheet. Up here towards the left, you have your income from all sources. Investment income, maybe you have rental property or any other income you might have, like child support coming in or a bonus that you may be getting. On this side, you have savings. And savings is an income. You're paying yourself savings. There are things that come up during the year that are not surprises. So Christmas is not a surprise. It comes on the same day every year. Birthdays, celebrations, and maybe a vacation that you're trying to save up for. Those are things that you're paying yourself for. And you'll see that this section here coincides with this down here under other savings. You're paying yourself and it's adding up here. This form here is interactive on an Excel sheet and will be available to you. For monthly expenses, we have them categorized. And again, this is personal to you. So you may not have some of these titles and you may change some of these to fit your personal life. But on this sheet, we have mortgage, rent, or HOA, cleaning and landscaping, laundry, utilities, and any of your internet, cable access, security systems. You have your your personal expenses, whether it be your salon, nails, toiletries, new clothing, any of your pharmacy or health club expenses. In this column, we go to food. And I want you just to remember the word groceries because we're really going to dive into that in a minute. Dining out, meal plans, and then this one here is a touchy subject, but it is an expense. It's your tobacco products, vape, and alcohol. Transportation, your car loan or lease, insurance, maintenance, public transportation, if you have a bus pass, parking, Uber, gas, and then your dependents, whether it be childcare, child support going out, your pet expenses, and then of course there's elder care as well as some people assist with. Entertainment, recreation, it's the vacations that you're putting money away for, the celebrations and gifts, gaming, if you have subscriptions to anything, or if you have concerts and movies. Education, the tuition you're paying out, book expenses, student loans, meal programs. And remember, this budget is fluent, it's constantly changing. So just because we have a number in one of these spaces this month, it doesn't mean we'll have one in a space next month. Savings, donations of your church tithes, your organizations, nonprofits that you're giving money to, credit card payments, and then these terrible things that sometimes, unfortunately, we have in our lives, a payday loan, cash advance, a title loan, or any fines, fees, or taxes. At the bottom here, our numbers will total for us. So our total income, our total expense, and our net cash flow. We want that net cash flow line to be a solid 0. So if you have a number there, say you have let's $50 left at the end of the month in the cash flow line, we want to take that $50 and go back up into our budget and say, where can I put you to take one of these expenses away? And it might be you want to put it on the credit card this month. And maybe that you want to get rid of taxes that are overdue. But you want to make this bottom line a 0. If this is a negative number, you have to find the money up in this budget to make this a negative up to a 0. So one of the places I go to would be over in my personal. Do I really need to get my nails done? Do I really need to go for that salon this month? The health club, am I actually using it? Some of these subscriptions, am I using them? Anything you can take away to make this bottom line 0. Because remember, we're telling our money where to go. Well, let's go back up to groceries, because that is such a huge expense right now, especially with the economy. Groceries are going up. I know my budget has fluctuated. I have less people in my house, but my budget seems to go back to when they were there just because of expenses. So let's see if I can get this to change.
I think I stole your mouse for a second. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Here, I got it. There you go.
There you go. So this is the grocery checklist and tracking sheet. At the top, you'd put the week's date. I always put the weekend date because every Friday you can find me in the same spot. I am at my desk doing this week's budget, or the month. If it's the last week of the month, I'm doing the budget for the upcoming month. And again, things change, but I'm keeping track of every penny. So here's my weekend date and then my budget amount. Realistic amount, I have a husband and 3 boys, so I have $150 a week to spend on groceries. I'll have a meal plan. Make this interactive with your family. Sit your family down and say, what do we want to eat this week? Because if you don't, they're not going to eat it. And then it's just going to be a waste. So what do we want to eat this week? And of course, the kids, when they were smaller, were macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets 5 days a week. My husband was more of meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans. So we would plan our meals accordingly, all the way down, even throw in an extra meal. Down here, you have a shopping list. I keep the staple items, but then I'd go back up here into my meal plan. I may have all the ingredients for the meatloaf, but I need potatoes. So I'd write down potatoes, and then green beans. I've got 1 can. Let me go ahead and pick up another can or another bag of frozen. So put those down there as well. And I'd go through every meal and pick all the ingredients that need to be purchased and put them in these columns. I don't forget breakfast. Definitely remember lunch, because especially if you're a working person, make sure you're putting lunch materials in there so you can bring your lunch and not have to spend money on lunch. Your toiletries and your household items. So then you take this to the grocery store, and we made it a game. I had the boys with me. One would have the grocery sheet holding it, one would have the calculator, and one would just be picking the products. So we go to the groceries. Let's say we got to the potatoes and they were $4.50. Automatically that number would get put into the calculator. 150 minus 5. We always round it up because you have to be aware of the taxes at the end when you get to the cash register. So we always round it up. We went through the whole store like that. It is a game between all of us. And those boys knew by the time we got to the freezer section, they'd look at me and say, uh-oh, Mom, we're not going to make it. And we could look back at our money and say, okay, if we're not going to make it, what are the essential things we do need to have to stay within that $150 budget? Or what are the things we have to put back? Or if we were doing so well, they'd say, oh, we can get that ice cream, or we could get that extra. So you really need to look at your budget, stay within your budget limit. I know it's hard, but don't splurge. Budgeting is all about discipline. It will work out for you. I can tell you that personally, in March of 2014, my husband and I went into this cold turkey. Money journals the next morning after we did an analysis of our budget that was not good. We put the money journals in his truck, went on my nightstand. We started cold turkey, and September 19th, 2019. So we're talking 5.5 years, 5 years, we were debt free. So this works. Be disciplined. And if you need anything along the way, please reach out to Carrie and I. We'd be more than happy to help you. And then again, if you have any suggestions for us, we'd be happy to hear them, because we're always learning and evolving ourselves. So I appreciate your time. Carrie, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, we just have time for questions now. So if you would like to drop any questions in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and you can just speak, and we can go ahead and answer those questions. I'm going to leave this slide up for just a second in case anybody needs our contact information that you would like to reach out directly with, if you have any personal stuff that you would like to ask that you don't want to ask in this forum, that is fine.
Tammy or Carrie, this is John Galley Boyko from Erie High School. I have my financial literacy class. I wanted to know, what does Erie Bank have to come into my classroom? Do they have lessons? Do they have people that come in? All those good things.
All of the above. We have all of the above. We do that quite regularly. And we tailor that depending on what you actually need. What's going on with the class at the time. I was trying to share.
So I'll get in contact. I can get in contact with you guys and
Yeah,
because I'll have two. What is nice this year, I have two back-to-back classes. So whoever comes in doesn't have to, they can just go from class to class and then you can be out of there.
Perfect. Yeah. Is that juniors?
I'll have juniors and seniors in that class.
Yeah. I have a really nice program put together. We do have some like free materials that we can give you too if you want them, but
I use foundations from the Dave Ramsey program, so that's my base.
Perfect. The 2-day program that I like to teach anyway, and I do in a lot of high schools, there's a credit card piece to it.
Cool.
Teach them how to get into credit card trouble so they don't do it.
That's wonderful.
And I also like to teach them, there's a couple other pieces to it, but then it has a retirement piece to talk about how do you become a millionaire.
Yep.
It's the savings side of that. So, we can combine that into 1 day or do 2 days for you, whichever, however you want. So please reach out and
I certainly will. Thank you so much.
of course. What other questions are out there?
I know this was extremely fast. Carrie and I usually have about 45 minutes to an hour to do our complete presentation, but we hope you enjoyed it and hope you got a good basis of financial literacy.
I did one thing I was thinking, Tammy, because I don't do it budgeting quite as strictly as you do. So your example of taking the boys to the store, what happens when you did, you said you got to the ice cream section, but what happens if you get to a point, did you change your meal plan as you went along at the grocery store if you're finding that, you were exceeding budget at the time?
Sometimes we did. Sometimes we did. I mean, it's fluent as well. As long as we stayed in that 150 limit, you can change things underneath. It's really up to you, but there are definitely times we had to.
Macaroni and cheese and hot dogs for dinner. I love it.
That's right.
The other, I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that these resources will be available. The spreadsheet that Tammy Lee was showing you a screenshot of, it is interactive, so it rolls up. It does add things up for you. It's just a basic Excel spreadsheet with some formulas in it that you'll have access to, and as well as the sheets that you can print out. Is there anything else that we missed?
You guys covered a lot of great information.
Thank
I guess the last question is, so, the question that I have in my head after seeing all these resources for when I saw them for the first time, when Tammy Lee introduced me to them, when do I start? Like, do I have to wait until the beginning of the month to start, or when can I start, tracking my expenses?
Well, my suggestion would be for your money journal is to start now. Any 30-day section of your life, it doesn't matter. So go ahead and print that off and get started as soon as you can. I would suggest on waiting for the budget piece, give yourself time to really think about it and plan it out, and start that at the first of the month. And that just gives you a very clean outlook as to the month ahead. But start that money journal as soon as you can. It's a very helpful tool.
Are there any other questions? Well, awesome. I hope everybody has a great afternoon. And again, be looking for the email with the resource links in it, and we'll get that out there soon.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you. Bye.